or 6 solid rocket boosters, or SRBs, Vulcan can be precisely configured to take any mission to space, from low Earth orbit to Pluto and beyond. These boosters augment the rocket's total thrust at liftoff, adding approximately 460,000 pounds of thrust per SRB. With their propellant expired approximately 90 seconds into ascent, the SRBs burn out, followed by jettison. Jettison time is variable, occurring between 100 and 150 seconds after liftoff, depending on mission requirements. Vulcan's guidance system then activates to steer towards the precise target in space. First stage flight continues as the rocket crosses the Kármán line, entering space. With the majority of propellant expended as Vulcan fights against the force of gravity, the BE-4 engines shut down, and the booster stage separates. With the rocket now weighing less than 10% of what it did at liftoff, dual RL-10C engines on ULA's Centaur upper stage ignite. Spacecraft are encapsulated inside a 5.4-meter diameter payload fairing, which provides a protective environment during ascent. Following Centaur engine ignition, the payload fairing is jettisoned. With the first burn complete, the Centaur engine shuts down for a coast phase. Centaur flies a short, medium, or long coast, which is determined by launch day. Further into flight, Centaur ignites for a second burn, powering the vehicle into a translunar injection orbit. Following the second main engine cutoff, ULA Centaur places Astrobotic's Peregrine lunar lander into a highly elliptical orbit, more than 220,000 miles above Earth, where it will intercept the Moon. Following delivery of the Peregrine spacecraft, Centaur comes alive for a third and final burn to reach a heliocentric orbit around the Sun. Centaur completes the CERT-1 mission by carrying Celestis' Memorial spaceflight payload into deep space. Known as the Enterprise flight, this mission includes 234 flight capsules containing cremated remains, DNA samples, and messages of greetings from clients worldwide on an endless journey in interplanetary space beyond the Earth-Moon system to orbit the Sun forever.
$249. FTS internal. $238. $230.
CLO2 PLP started.
$59.
Vehicle internal.
T-minus 2 minutes. The launch vehicle, payload, ground systems, and eastern range are go for launch. For those of you just joining, I'm Amanda Sterling, and I'm your host for today's live coverage of the inaugural Vulcan rocket launch. The team is not working any issues, and we're on track for an on-time liftoff at 2:18:38 a.m. Eastern Time.
FCS arm. $120. FCS count started. One minute.
T-minus 1 minute.
Range status. Range green. 45.
Vulcan tanks at step 3.
BE4 start box, go. SRBs, everything looking good. BE4s continue to operate normally. Coming up on 2 minutes into the mission. We are now 17 miles in altitude.
We just heard confirmation of solid rocket booster jettison. We have about 3 minutes until we reach our next mission event, booster engine cutoff.
And we see booster PU correcting towards a nominal MR, everything looking good. Both engines continue to burn normally. And we now weigh approximately half of our liftoff weight. Everything looking good. And we fired the pyro valve, activating the reaction control system. On the upper stage, pressures are rising. As expected, PE4 continues to operate normally. Vehicles continue to fly down the center of the range track, everything looking good. 33 miles in altitude, 52 miles downrange, traveling at 4,000 miles per hour. Continue to see excellent performance out of the BE4s. Chamber pressure nice and smooth. Vehicle steadily accelerating, a little over 2 Gs at this time. Good body rates. Nice and smooth operation of the booster. 47 miles in altitude, 95 miles downrange at 5,500 miles per hour. Engines continue to burn normally, everything looking good. And the vehicle now weighs 1/4 of its liftoff weight as we pass through the Kármán line. Next mark event we're looking for is boost phase chill down on the Centaur main engines. Booster mains continue to operate normally. And we've begun boost phase chill. Housing temps are dropping as expected. Coming up to the end of boost phase, approximately 10 seconds to BECO. Throttle down in preparation for BECO. We've completed boost phase chill down. And we have cutoff. Coming up on Vulcan Centaur separation. We have Vulcan Centaur separation. Everything looking good. Coming up on the Centaur phase. And experiencing a bit of data loss here. We've recovered the data. It's like Centaur engines are up and running normally, good steady state pressure, and we've just jettisoned the payload fairing. 2 good brake wires. And good steady state operating levels on the Centaur mains. 2 good engines. Gone to open loop control on Centaur PU.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 5 minutes 57 seconds. We just heard flight commentator Rob Gannon confirm the successful completion of the early phase of today's flight, and all systems continue to operate nominally. Our next event, main engine cutoff, will occur in about 10 minutes. While we wait, I'm joined by Amanda Bicchetti, ULA Director of Vehicle Upgrades. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us, and I know it's still early, but congratulations.
Thank you. You as well. This is amazing.
How did it feel to watch the Vulcan rocket lift off for the first time?
Oh, just absolutely amazing. I didn't expect it to be the way it was. It just, my heart is still pounding. It was excellent, and just, I'm so proud of all the work that the team did to get where we are today.
Absolutely, and developing a new rocket is an enormous endeavor of which you were a huge part. Again, we're still early, but how do you imagine the whole Vulcan team is feeling right now?
I feel like they have to be the same way, you know, smile ear to ear. I know the team is at all our sites, friends and family. They've been supporting us for many years to get to where we are, so I'm sure they are jumping up and down just like me. It's been amazing.
How is the Vulcan rocket going to change the industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Vulcan is very much based on our heritage rockets, the Delta IV and Atlas V vehicles, but we've brought in a lot of new innovation and capabilities that are going to allow us to even better support our warfighters, exploration, as well as connecting the world. And the great thing about Vulcan is it's highly versatile, meaning we can use that vehicle to do anything we want, allows for affordability for anybody who needs access to space.
Absolutely. And so this is the first certification flight. What are the next steps for Vulcan after this?
Yeah, so with the first flight, we are well under the way from a certification perspective. We do have a second flight that we'll need to do here later this year. Once that get completed, we'll have about 2 months or so of post-flight data testing, and then at that point we will be certified by the U.S. Space Force, and we will be ready to fly all of their important payloads for them.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll let you get back and watch the next mission
Excellent.
events.
Congratulations again.
Thanks, you too.
Coming up on 500 seconds into the mission. Everything's looking good. Continuing to burn Centaur. Body rates look right as expected. Steady acceleration, just under half a G. And we are now 235 miles in altitude, 836 miles downrange, traveling at 11,150 miles per hour. Continue to see nominal performance from Centaur. And approaching the halfway point of this first burn of Centaur, everything looks good. We're now 1,000 miles downrange, traveling at 11,500 miles per hour.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 10 minutes 7 seconds. Our next event, main engine cutoff, will occur in about 5 minutes. While we wait, I'm joined by Eric Monda, part of ULA's mission design team. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we're still pretty early in this flight today, but can you tell us how the data's looking so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to say that it was so exciting. I ran outside so I could watch this thing lift off, and that was so cool after so many years of development to watch this thing fly. That was fantastic.
Absolutely, I bet.
Yeah.
So what is the data showing us so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had a very quick look. Obviously, we're very early in the flight still, but I've taken a look at the SRB performance as well as the booster performance so far, and everything looks just spot on, just perfect. Fortunately, we've had a lot of these systems on Atlas and Delta for a long time, and so we've had a lot of flight data to anchor our models, and everything is lining up just like we would expect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So a lot of the audience has seen us switch from this live view of the launch from our rocket cam to this animated representation of the vehicle in space. Can you talk a little bit about why we make that switch and how this visual is populated?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we first lift off, we have a feed directly from the cameras that are on the rocket back to the launch site here. And so with that, we can get the video feed that we need in order to provide those images. As we get further downrange and we go over the horizon, we no longer have that direct link, and so we rely on NASA's TDRS system to send telemetry from the vehicle back down to us on the ground. In that telemetry data, we get information like position and attitude and velocity, and so we use that to drive the animations you see here.
Okay, so we're looking at real data, what's happening. It's just a graphic of it instead of the real thing.
That's exactly right, yes.
Awesome, that's really cool. So, today right now we're in the first of 3 Centaur burns. Can you talk a little bit about why we need 3 burns and how we use those 3 burns to complete our mission today?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first burn performs our injection into low Earth orbit. Unfortunately, if we just continue that burn from that point in time, we wouldn't necessarily be aligned with where we need to be in order to get to the moon. So what we do after we get to low Earth orbit is we shut those engines down, we coast around until we get to the right spot to do that, and then we light those engines up again. When we do that and complete that burn, that will allow us to send the Astrobotic Peregrine lander onto the moon. So we shut those engines down again. We are ready to do that, and then start them up one more time in order to do the third burn. And that's what's going to take Celestis' Enterprise mission out to deep space. So let's talk a little bit about where these things happen. We're going to go ahead and shut down the main engines on the Centaur when we get about halfway across the Atlantic Ocean, and then we're going to coast the rest of the way across the Atlantic Ocean, across Africa, and go ahead and start the engines up again when we get to Madagascar. And that's where we'll do the second burn, and then we coast again until we get about to Papua New Guinea. And when we get over Papua New Guinea, that's where we'll go ahead and do that third and final burn.
Okay, so you mentioned a couple of these key milestones that are ahead of us. What can everyone expect to see as far as the timeline of these mission events as they continue watching today?
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at the clock right now, looks like we've got about 2 minutes, a little over 2 minutes left here in the first burn of the upper stage. We're going to coast for about 30 minutes after that as we do get that coast across the Atlantic Ocean and across Africa. The second burn will be about 4 minutes long, and then we'll have another coast for 30 minutes before we have a pretty short, like 20-second burn for the final burn. Once we've done that, then we've got some engineering demos we're going to do before we finally safe the stage and shut everything off. And then about 4 days later is when the Centaur will leave the Earth-Moon system and be off on its way to deep space.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, and thanks for joining us today, and we'll let you get back to watching those next events.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Amanda.
Thanks.
The GPU system is steadily making the correction down to a nominal MR. Or 1 minute, D'Amico. Both engines firing normally.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 15 minutes 30 seconds. We are approaching the first main engine cutoff. Let's listen in.
Coming up on Miko 1. On to open loop control on Miko, we have cutoff. Both engines show normal shutdown signatures. We have settling established, 85% duty cycle. We are now in a 27-minute, 51-second coast duration to second burn of Centaur.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 16 minutes 20 seconds. We just heard flight commentator Rob Gannon confirm successful cutoff of the first main engine, and all systems continue to operate nominally. Our next event, main engine start 2, will occur in about 27 minutes. At this time, we'll pass the broadcast back to the NASA team to continue with mission coverage through the coast phase. We'll join you back in as we approach the separation of the Peregrine spacecraft. Over to you, Megan.
Thank you, Amanda. Congratulations to you and the ULA team so far. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Space Coast of Florida, where we just witnessed the first launch of NASA's CLIPS initiative. It was a magnificent sight, leaves me speechless, apparently. Just really lighting up the night sky and loud enough to set off a couple of car alarms nearby. CLIPS is short for Commercial Lunar Payload Services. It's a new model in which NASA contracts space on commercial missions to send science experiments to the moon ahead of us landing astronauts there. For today's launch, NASA selected Astrobotic to deliver its 5 lunar instruments. This is the first mission for its Peregrine spacecraft. Today was also the first launch of ULA's new Vulcan rocket. Again, congrats. It lifted off from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station's Launch Pad 41. Our broadcast here on NASA TV will continue through Peregrine acquisition of signal, which is expected to happen at the earliest around 3:17 a.m. Eastern Time. With me now is Sandra Connolly. She's the Deputy Associate Administrator of NASA's Science Mission Directorate. Good morning, and thanks for being here, Sandra.
Good morning. It's a thrill to be here.
Yeah, what did you think of the launch?
It was amazing. Yet another beautiful ULA launch. Totally spectacular, and it's super exciting to know that now our Peregrine 1 lander is on its way to the moon, and in about 2.5 weeks it's going to go into orbit. And a few weeks later from that, in mid to late February, we're going to actually see it land. And that will be the first, well, actually it'll be one of the early landings on the moon since Apollo, over 50 years, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. U.S. landings on the moon.
Yeah, it is. And CLIPS is new as well. So talk to us a little bit about this program. We're using commercial companies to send science instruments to the moon for us. Why is that?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this program. It is a game-changing program for us. It really is leveraging industry in new ways. As you've probably seen, I mean, the whole aerospace industry has evolved over this last decade in amazing ways, and I think this is just yet one more step in doing so. So our commercial partners are actually delivering a service. They're delivering our payloads and other organizational payloads, whether it's other companies, whether it's international partners. Basically, anybody who wants to procure the service can deliver a payload to the moon using the CLIPS program.
And so there are 20 payloads flying on the Peregrine spacecraft right now. 5 of those are NASA's. Can you tell me a little bit about what they'll be studying once they get to the moon?
Yeah, so again, amazing service. So our payloads are going to be studying things, including understanding, studying water, studying the volatiles or the resources on the moon, studying the atmosphere, and also the radiation environment to help inform us for the future when we have humans back on the moon.
Sandra, thank you so much. I'm excited to see what we do with this initiative and this launch here today.
Thank you so much, and let me just say, go Vulcan and go Peregrine 1.
Yes, you can totally say that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so when Peregrine lands on the near side of the moon on February 23rd, it will be one of the first lunar landings for the U.S. since the final Apollo mission over 50 years ago. Let's head back over to Astrobotic's Olivia Chapla.
Thanks, Megan, and what a great day so far. So for those of you just tuning in, I wanted to reintroduce myself. I'm Olivia Chapla, Director of Marketing and Communications for Astrobotic. Astrobotic is a space company with our primary headquarters in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we've just watched our Peregrine lunar lander rocket into space aboard a United Launch Alliance Vulcan rocket. This Peregrine spacecraft's mission is to carry 20 payloads or cargo to the lunar surface from 7 different countries. 6 of those nations have never reached the moon before. Our aim is to autonomously land on the lunar surface a few weeks from now. We're taking the long way around, and we expect Peregrine to land on February 23rd, 2024. We've got all eyes on the Peregrine lander as it waits to separate from the Vulcan rocket in about 30 minutes. At that point, we will seek to establish communications with the lander. And now we'll take a more in-depth look at Peregrine's full journey to the moon with an animation. Once ULA's Vulcan rocket launches, we will then know the exact day the Peregrine spacecraft will attempt a soft landing on the moon. The first landing attempt could be anywhere from 10 to 60 days from launch. Because this is Peregrine's first ever trip to the moon, our team is not taking a direct path. Peregrine will first complete one Earth orbit so the team can get critical data on the spacecraft and test maneuvers before executing a very critical milestone, entering lunar orbit. Peregrine will orbit the moon at 3 altitudes. The first orbit will last about 33 hours. Peregrine's second orbit can be up to 35 days. The spacecraft's third and final orbit around the moon will last 48 hours. Next up, Peregrine will attempt a soft landing on the lunar surface autonomously. The team will issue a landing sequence that will command the spacecraft to enter a descent orbit. About 15 kilometers from the lunar surface, an exciting powered descent begins. While we wait for the Peregrine spacecraft to separate from the Vulcan rocket and begin that exciting journey to the moon, I have Astrobotic's founder and Chief Executive Officer, John Thornton. Hi there, John. I understand you are currently at ULA, just a stone's throw from where I am now, and we both just saw ULA's Vulcan rocket achieve liftoff with our very own Peregrine aboard. Tell me, after waiting for this moment for years, how are you feeling?
It's a dream. This is the moment we've been waiting for 16 years, and I'm standing in mission control, and we just had a beautiful launch. Thank you, ULA. So excited. We are on our way to the moon.
I can tell you and everyone else are in a really excited buzz today for sure. So tell me, what else do you think is the most important thing about our Peregrine mission today?
So this is the beginning of the dawn of a new era for the surface of the moon and how we think about space. This is an opportunity for commercial payloads to fly to the surface of the moon on a regular, routine basis. That means our nation's scientists, our world scientists, can access the moon in ways never before possible. And we are seeing the beginnings of that right now as we speak on our journey to the surface of the moon. Our first mission carries 20 payloads from all over the world. 6 nations on board the mission will touch the surface of the moon for the very first time. It's a phenomenal, exciting mission to be a part of, and it's a real honor to be here today, and I could not imagine a better start to the mission.
That's true. And what do you have to say to the Astrobotic team and to all of the payload customers who made today's mission possible?
For 16 years, we've been pushing for this moment today. And along the way, we had a lot of hard challenges that we had to overcome, and a lot of people doubted us along the way. But our team and the people that supported us believed in the mission, and they created this beautiful moment that we're seeing today, working incredibly hard to make this possible. I can't thank the thousands of people between our team, our suppliers, our partners that have made this moment possible today. It's an unbelievable feat, and it is the culmination of all of everyone's effort coming together for this moment, believing in this possibility that a small company in Pittsburgh, of all places in this country, can lead America back to the surface of the moon.
Thank you, John. Well, I'll let you get back to the team that are in Florida with us as we wait for the Peregrine spacecraft to separate from Vulcan's rocket in about 30 to 40 minutes. For now, back to Megan.
Thanks, Olivia.
Oh, thank you.
Now, CLIPS missions are an important step in returning to and staying on the moon. But these lunar landings that will help shape our future there are not without risks.
Landing on the moon is hard. We're going back. Under this Artemis program, we're going to be sending humans to the moon for the first time since Apollo. So ahead of humans, we want to get up as much science exploration and technology and experiments as possible.
So CLIPS starts facilitating a lot of the early science, the things we want to learn before we even send humans. CLIPS stands for Commercial Lunar Payload Services, CLPS.
The services part is the key element. Ordinarily, when NASA delivers a payload to the surface of the moon, they do it with a commercial partner, but NASA controls the building of the vehicle. Now, we're buying the service of delivery of our lunar payloads to the surface of the moon.
It is a delivery service, akin to a delivery service that you'd have here on Earth.
NASA will provide payloads to a commercial company. They decide how to get it to the moon. They have to develop their own lander, but they also have to manage the entire end-to-end mission.
It's meant to provide affordable, rapid, frequent access to the lunar surface through American companies.
We're funding different companies.
We have commercial companies that are competing to win task orders to deliver our payloads to the surface of the moon.
One of the goals when we started CLIPS was to help establish a lunar economy.
Somebody has to do it first, and then it becomes commercially available. Then they're able to crank them up. Then they're able to make it more affordable. And so the lunar surface is just the next frontier for a commercial environment.
But we had to acknowledge up front, all the way through the highest levels of the agency leadership, that some of them will fail. These missions may not be as successful as a traditional NASA mission.
We have accepted the risk that going through this innovative approach with these commercial companies, that there could be some failures. Some of them are new companies. None of them have ever successfully landed on the surface of the moon. So they're going to learn lessons.
We need to give our vendors the opportunity to learn.
And so that'll help ultimately buy down our risk as these companies learn, okay, what does it take to actually build up the lunar lander, integrate payloads, get to the lunar surface and land safely.
They've been able to demonstrate that they have very, very good technical depth and the ability to design and execute missions. We're willing to take more shots on goal. We aren't risking human lives. And in the big picture, if we're flying missions at 1/10 of the cost of a NASA mission, and we fail 2 of them, we still get 8 missions for that same price.
Even with 1 or 2 or 3 failures, this is still a very economical proposition. It's a risk posture which is more risk tolerant than NASA is accustomed to. There's not a single one of these companies that's willing to bet their mission on a coin toss. Every one of them is doing what they can in order to have the most successful mission possible. But the important thing to realize is that risk tolerant does not mean risky. And the rewards are a long-term ability to get payloads to the moon inexpensively, frequently, and rapidly.
We want science, so we can then put more of our resources on even more science, exploration, and technology payloads and get more of a return on investment when we get to the moon.
CLIPS provides tremendous benefit across the scientific and economic communities.
So there's a lot we'd like to learn about the moon to help human habitation and prepare us for missions to Mars and beyond.
So the moon is the first step.
And a lot has to happen before Peregrine lands safely on the moon. Astrobotic's Olivia Chapla shows how they tested the spacecraft here on Earth and what the team will do during its journey in space.
Peregrine has gone through quite a journey already and still has a long list of objectives to complete on its way to the moon. We've categorized these objectives into 5 stages, beginning with engineering it here on Earth. First, we built and tested a bolt-for-bolt engineering model of Peregrine. Based on our findings, we constructed the final spacecraft to send to the moon. Each iteration of Peregrine went through rigorous testing to ensure it will survive the harsh conditions of launch and space environments. Phase 2 objectives will begin when the spacecraft separates from the rocket. Once separated, Peregrine will power on and establish communications with Earth. At this stage, we'll receive telemetry informing us of the spacecraft's position, orientation, and general operational health. One of the first commands we send to the spacecraft will initiate thrusters to point Peregrine's solar panels at the sun to charge its battery. We are planning for all of these objectives to be completed today. Next, and off-camera, our Phase 3 objectives begin. These objectives include trajectory adjustment maneuvers in space before lunar orbit insertion. After lunar insertion, Peregrine will complete 3 orbits around the moon. Then, the last phase of the mission begins, lunar landing and operations.
And for a closer look at landing, I'm joined now by Mike Hennessy, Educational Director of the Moonshot Museum in Pittsburgh. Good morning to you.
Good morning. It's spectacular to be here today.
Absolutely. We saw a launch, right?
Yeah, and it was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to me about Peregrine and the spacecraft we have you on, because you know a lot about Peregrine and this mission. Why is that?
Well, every day I've had a front row seat at Peregrine under construction. I work at the Moonshot Museum, and we share a wall of windows with Astrobotic. And better yet, I've seen kids with their faces pressed against the glass, knowing they're going to grow up to become that next generation of makers that take us to the moon.
That's fantastic. And you also brought us some props here. So these are different parts, different materials that make up the multi-layer insulation. That's what goes around the spacecraft, right?
Right. That's the thermal protective space blanket for the craft. craft, and we have a number of different materials here. This is Astro Quartz. It's a woven ceramic fiber, very heat resistant. We've got aluminum, which is great for reflecting solar heat. And this is also aluminum. Glitters a little more like gold, but it's just aluminum that's been covered with a polymer called Kapton. And you can see it actually on our model here. We have of the Peregrine lander.
Right here. This is the multi-layer insulation.
Yeah, we've got the multi-layer insulation, and that's wrapping these fuel tanks, kind of like cosmic baked potatoes.
And why do we need all these different materials?
Well, the moon is a harsh environment, and it takes a lot of technical know-how to land there. There's no atmospheric blanket like we have on Earth. So we need a thermal space blanket to protect against wild temperature extremes, boiling hot days, freezing cold nights, several hundred degrees below zero, and Peregrine's been engineered to endure that.
Okay, so now we know how it will be protected during landing. How will it land? What technologies are we using to make sure that it lands safely when you say that the moon isn't the easiest place to land on?
Right, and that's my favorite part of the story because this robot is going to land itself. Because we have about a 2.5 second signal delay from the Earth to the moon and back, it's like having a self-driving car going to another world. We have a full suite of sensors, gyroscopes, Doppler, LiDAR, star trackers, and a really cool technology called Terrain Relative Navigation, or TRN. About 9 miles out, Peregrine will activate its camera, and as it's descending, and the camera's taking pictures, the computer will be playing kind of a high-speed game of flashcards. Comparing those pictures to 3D maps, and then Peregrine will have to make decisions in order to come to a landing. We're going to test drive this technology on Peregrine, and then on Astrobotic's next lunar lander, Griffin, TRN will be in the driver's seat when we head to the moon's south pole.
Oh, that's fantastic, and I know Griffin is going to be delivering another NASA payload, so another partnership where we get to do this together.
Yeah, I think another great example of how CLIPS is bringing together entrepreneurship and accelerating the pace of science and taking us out into the solar system.
Mike, thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, so the Astrobotic team hopes to land on the near side of the moon on February 23rd in a place called the Bay of Stickiness, a lunar feature formed by ancient hardened lava flow. It's located outside of the Gruithuisen domes, which is the largest dark spot on the moon. Why does NASA want to conduct science here? Well, on Earth, formations like these domes need significant water and also plate tectonics to form. But without these key elements on the moon, lunar scientists have been left to wonder how the domes formed and evolved over time. We'll of course have coverage of the landing on our NASA Plus app or whichever social platform you watch us on. Now, earlier in the show, we told you about the NERVIS payload from NASA's Ames Research Center. The other payload from Ames is the Neutron Spectrometer System, or NSS.
I'm Rick Elphick. I'm the principal investigator of the Neutron Spectrometer System aboard the Peregrine 1 lander. NSS measures neutrons coming out of the lunar soil, and the neutrons tell you a lot about the makeup of the lunar soil. The neutrons that we measure with the neutron spectrometer are specifically related to the presence of hydrogen, the H in H2O, or water, and that's its real purpose, is to locate water, to actually act as a divining rod. Peregrine will be landing in a location where we really don't expect very much water, if any at all. But it's an interesting experiment. The exhaust system of its descent engines will actually spray paint the surface with its exhaust. And part of that exhaust is water, and some of that water is actually going to stick onto the surface of the moon. Then after we land, NSS can monitor how that water goes away as the sun rises at the landing site and the day gets warmer and warmer. Water is really important as a resource for exploration. Astronauts need it for drinking water, but you can also use it by splitting it up into hydrogen and oxygen as rocket fuel. So if you can find water in place where you're going to, that means you can use it there and not have to bring it up from Earth.
Now, NASA has 2 more payloads flying to the moon today. We're going to tell you about both of them in just a few minutes. But first, let's introduce you all to Chris Culbert, Program Manager for CLIPS out of NASA's Johnson Space Center. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Megan. Thank you. It's a wonderful day.
It is. We just watched the launch. What did you think?
It was amazing. Oh, my God. What a wonderful feeling. That rocket was gorgeous.
Yeah, and so NASA has 5 payloads hitching a ride. Tell me about the different things that they'll be studying and why they're studying those things.
So, this early mission for CLIPS, this is our first mission. So our first 2 early missions are mostly carrying small instruments that help us learn more about the environment of the moon. As we get further into CLIPS in future missions, we'll raise the complexity and start studying more complex, more difficult questions. But at the beginning, we're mostly trying to characterize what the moon is like, what the radiation does, what kind of environment we can find there. It doesn't have an atmosphere, but there's particles and dust and other things. We're trying to get more information about that so that we can help guide future human missions more effectively.
And how soon could we see data from some of those instruments so that we can start creating that fuller picture?
We'll start getting data back within hours of landing on the moon.
Wow.
Now, the scientists will need some time to analyze that information and turn it into the kind of information that helps guide future missions. But we should be getting data back from the moon within a few hours of landing, and we'll already for as long as 14 days on the moon. We'll be gathering that data. But the scientists will then take that information offline and analyze it for a while.
So basically, these missions, these instruments that we're sending, they're scouting the moon for us.
Yes. Yeah, they're telling us what the moon is like, helping us understand what we need to know so that we can take humans there safely. It also allows us to better design future instruments and other experiments that will pinpoint the kinds of things we need to know about the moon to be able to work and live there.
Chris, thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're now less than a few minutes away until the Peregrine spacecraft separates from Vulcan's Centaur upper stage. We're going to go back to ULA for that milestone, but before that, another quick status update on Peregrine from Olivia.
Thanks, Megan. And now I'm checking in on Astrobotic's mission control team. In about 20 to 30 minutes, they're expecting Peregrine to power on and then try to communicate with them on the ground. Peregrine will establish ground communications with NASA's Deep Space Network, and then we will begin receiving telemetry. As we wait for those milestones, here's an in-depth look at the inner workings of the Peregrine lunar lander.
And now we'll take a look at the Peregrine spacecraft. You'll notice that we've removed the MLI or multi-layer insulation so we can better see the inside of the spacecraft. Throughout Peregrine's journey, they'll keep an eye on the spacecraft's temperatures, pressures, power levels, and communication system. Solar panels at the top of Peregrine charge its batteries to power the spacecraft. Moving down towards the center of the spacecraft are the payload decks. You'll notice the decks have a unique isogrid pattern that we've used as an inspiration for a lot of our graphic design for the mission. This structure pattern optimizes the sturdiness of the payload decks while also minimizing its weight. Affixed to these decks are all 20 payloads. 20 individual pieces of cargo from 7 different countries are aboard these 2 main decks. Peregrine has 12 attitude control system engines, called thrusters, that are used to orient the spacecraft. You can see 4 large propellant tanks filled with monomethyl hydrazine and multiple mixtures of oxygen-nitrogen, or MON, as oxidizer. Mounted to the bottom of the spacecraft are 5 main engines that will slow the craft down as it approaches the lunar surface. These engines use a hypergolic bipropellant pressure-fed system. Believe it or not, Peregrine will use the majority of its fuel in the last 15 minutes of the mission as we attempt a soft landing on the lunar surface. Peregrine has 4 landing legs attached to its base. These legs have a honeycomb structure on the inside that will crush to absorb the impact of Peregrine landing on the lunar surface. Peregrine is designed for an autonomous landing. That means it will use complex computing and a suite of sensors instead of human pilots. There are 2 antenna relays and a high-power transponder to relay communications between the spacecraft and the Astrobotic team. The relay will connect Peregrine with NASA's Deep Space Network, or DSN, utilizing the same dishes that communicate with the James Webb Space Telescope as well as other historic missions.
And the last major feature of Peregrine is something you can't see. It's the hundreds of people who have worked on, tested, and gotten the spacecraft to the launch pad today. A shout out to the team we like calling the Astrobots, and a shout out to our payload customers who are sending their items to the moon with us. Your continued commitment to science and lunar exploration is important for humanity. The Peregrine lunar lander has 20 pieces of cargo called payloads aboard. You can find the full manifest on Astrobotic's website, but here is a look at a few of the payloads. IRIS rover. This is a student-built rover with a mission to take photos and send them back to Earth as it drives across the lunar landscape. Once Peregrine lands on the moon, IRIS will deploy to the surface to begin its mission. And here we have another Carnegie Mellon University payload called Moonark. Moonark is seen as a cultural museum to the moon. Comprised of 4 independent chambers and weighing a combined total of 10 ounces, it contained hundreds of images, poems, music, nano-objects, and earthly samples. Next, we have Colmena, a fleet of micro-rovers and the first Latin American scientific instrument ever sent to the moon. Consisting of 5 small rovers, it will demonstrate a coordinated moon exploration. Lastly, we have the DHL Moonbox. Former astronaut Richard Garriott and thousands of others from around the world have sent small mementos to link life's meaningful moments with our nearest celestial neighbor. Now, this is just a snippet of the 20 payloads aboard Peregrine. Again, you can find the full list on Astrobotic's website. Now back to Megan.
We are now less than 10 minutes away from Peregrine separation, so let's get back over to the ULA team and Amanda Sterling to take us through that.
Thanks, Megan, and thanks to those of you who are still following mission progress of ULA's Vulcan Cert-1 flight. For those who are just tuning in, I'm Amanda Sterling, and I'm here at ULA's Advanced Spaceflight Operations Center at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. ULA's inaugural Vulcan rocket lifted off on its first flight test at 2:18:38 a.m. Eastern, and all systems continue to operate nominally.
Minute, 1 second burn. And we've begun pressurizing the propellant tanks in preparation for second burn. Coming up on LH2 pre-start. LH2 pre-start.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 43 minutes, 8 seconds. Coming up next is the second main engine start of ULA's Centaur upper stage. Let's listen in.
Change to the start position, everything looking good. About 15 seconds to mess. We have ignition, full thrust, 2 good engines, everything looking good.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 43 minutes, 57 seconds. As we approach Peregrine separation, let's learn more about the first spacecraft to launch in NASA's new CLIPS initiative to have American companies send its science experiments to the moon.
Astrobotic is a full-service lunar company. It starts with our terrestrial testing and development services that can build propulsion systems and test propulsion systems on Earth, to the sensors that make precision landing possible, to our rovers that will deploy down on the surface of the moon, to one day our power systems that will deploy on the moon and provide sustaining power for the infrastructure on the surface. Astrobotic is in all of those businesses, and we are in the business of making space accessible to the world, and the moon is just the beginning. The big thing that we're known for is our 2 lunar missions to go to the surface of the moon. Our first one is about to launch, and our second one flies in 2024. The Peregrine mission is important because it's among the first commercial missions to return to the surface of the moon. This is the first time as a nation going back since Apollo. It's the first time for 6 nations that could land on the surface of the moon with our mission. This is the dawn of a new era of affordable, routine, regular access to the surface. What that means is our nations and world scientists can access the moon on a routine, regular basis. They don't have to wait for the culmination of their career for one single super mission. They can go back again and again and again. It's the beginnings of learning about the resources on the surface of the moon, and potentially one day turning those resources into something that we can use in space, and maybe one day return back here to Earth. Peregrine's development was a years-long process that included many people, like engineers, welders, and technicians, who designed and built the spacecraft. Landing a spacecraft on the moon is very complex. The team worked long hours to get Peregrine to the launch pad. To be on the pad today with our spacecraft strapped to a giant 200-foot tall launch vehicle ready to blast into the heavens it's a little surreal. It's a moment I've been dreaming about for 16 years. And to see it all on one rocket, it's terrifying and exciting and thrilling all at once. Our Peregrine lunar lander starts its journey to the moon in Florida on a Vulcan launch vehicle. That will blast us into translunar injection, heading us straight out to the moon, where we will enter lunar orbit and start our descent down to the surface. At this point, engines are firing, all eyes are tuned in, and as we soft touch down on the surface of the moon, that marks the beginning of our surface operations and our payloads deploy. As a nation and as a company, as individuals, we all persevere to overcome challenges, and we're going to continue to do that. And this first mission is just our first step, our first attempt to make space accessible to the world, and it certainly will not be our last.
Pressures.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 47 minutes 8 seconds. We're a few seconds from the second main engine cutoff. Here's Rob Gannon.
30 seconds to nominal MECO. Seconds. And we're going to open loop on PU. Coming up on cutoff. We have cutoff. Everything is looking good. And we are now in a 2-minute 49-second coast phase of spacecraft separation. We've got full settling going after MECO. And we're reorienting to spacecraft SEP attitude. And continue to maneuver to our S2 attitude. And we're inside a 1.5 minutes to spacecraft separation. Body rates are nulling out. And this mission does call for a roll spin for spacecraft separation of 0.5 degree per second. We'll be starting that maneuver shortly.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 50 minutes 10 seconds. Vulcan has executed all mission events expected, and we are now approaching delivery of the Astrobotic Peregrine commercial lunar lander into a highly elliptical orbit, more than 220,000 miles above Earth, to intercept the moon. Let's return to flight commentator Rob Gannon as we approach separation.
We are spinning down. And we are now in a 28-minute coast period to third burn of Centaur.
This is Vulcan Mission Control at T plus 51 minutes 6 seconds. We just heard confirmation of Peregrine spacecraft separation. I'm now back with ULA President and CEO Tori Bruno. Tori, our first Vulcan rocket just delivered its first payload to orbit. How are you feeling?
Yeehaw! I am so thrilled. I can't tell you how much.
Absolutely. And again, we're not completely done with the mission here today. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience?
I am so proud of this team. Oh my gosh, this has been years of hard work. So far, this has been an absolutely beautiful mission back to the moon and off to our next burn, where we will do our final payload deployment to that heliocentric orbit for the memorial. Our team has done such a good job. Bravo, Zulu to everyone. This is just, it's hard to describe.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that too. So again, thank you so much for joining us on our show. Congratulations, and we'll let you get back to finish the rest of the mission.
Congratulations to you. Give me a hug. All right.
Minutes 40 seconds. Time, we're going to pass the broadcast back to the NASA team to continue mission coverage. We'll be joining back in as we approach the final engine burn. Over to you, Megan.
Thank you, Amanda, and well done, ULA team. So throughout the broadcast, we have been telling you about the 5 NASA payloads that are flying on this mission. We've shown you in depth 3 of them, and now we have the final 2. So NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center has 2 payloads aboard today's flight, and one of those is the Peregrine Ion Trap Mass Spectrometer, aka PITMAS. Its job is to understand the release and movement of lunar surface volatiles like water.
My name is Barbara Cohen. I am the principal investigator, or the lead of the science team, for the Peregrine Ion Trap Mass Spectrometer. PITMAS, the instrument I work on, is going to inform our understanding of the volatile cycle on the moon. That is water, carbon dioxide, methane, all sorts of fun molecules that we want to measure on the surface of the moon and in the lunar exosphere. So we are trying to learn about the water at the poles by going back to where it comes from, to the solar wind and micrometeorites that are coming in now, and understanding how much is there now, how much could be there in the future, how much was there in the past. We're interested in that atmosphere and what it's made out of, and that's what PITMAS will monitor. The reason it's so important to measure the lunar exosphere is because that is a process that's happening today that includes all of the things we're interested in for human exploration. Our Artemis program is going to the South Pole because there are resources there. If you don't have to bring your water with you, if you can use the water that's there, that saves you a lot of mass going up with your astronauts.
And the 5th and final NASA payload we want to show you is the Laser Retroreflector, or LRA. It's a unique type of mirror used to measure distance, and this is why it's so critical for future missions.
My name is Xiaolei Sang. I'm a LiDAR instrument scientist and also work on other laser instruments. The instrument is a laser retroreflector arrays. It's a small retroreflectors mounted on a shell, on aluminum shell, support shell. It retroreflects laser light back to where it came from. The purpose is to, number one, to have a fiducial marker, a precise fiducial marker on the lander so that we know exactly where that is on the lunar surface. It serves as a landmark for future missions if you want to go back and land it there. When you shine laser on it and it reflects right back at you, so it doesn't matter which way you're looking at it. And so that will help us to range from orbit to the lander as it passes overhead.
All right, it's now been about 55 minutes since Vulcan and Peregrine lifted off from the space coast of Florida. Let's get back to Olivia and the Astrobotic team as they work to confirm acquisition of signal with their spacecraft.
Thanks, Megan. As you saw, we just got confirmation that the Peregrine spacecraft separated from the Vulcan rocket, and now we are waiting to establish a space-to-ground communications connection. We expect for this to take a few more minutes. This connection helps engineers in Astrobotic's Mission Control Center pass commands, receive telemetry, and determine the location of Peregrine in space. Peregrine will be utilizing NASA's Deep Space Network, or DSN, their 34-meter dishes in Australia, Spain, and California. These dishes are the same suite used to communicate with the James Webb Telescope, as well as other historic missions. So our flight director on console, Alex Van Hoven, will be calling out what is happening in Astrobotic's Mission Control Center. And now, as we look at Astrobotic's Mission Control Center, you can see the rows of our staff all monitoring the spacecraft. In the room today, we have 3 of 6.
This is Mission Control Flight Director announcement. Repeat broadcast, this is Mission Control Flight Director with an announcement. The mission team is still waiting for communications with Peregrine with earliest AOS at 080905 UTC in approximate 2.5 minutes. To repeat, the mission team is still waiting for communication with Peregrine with the earliest AOS expected at 080905 UTC.
And folks, that was Alex Van Hoven, our flight director on console. He is calling out UTC times, or sort of space times, and we're waiting for that acquisition of signal with the Peregrine spacecraft.
Correction, earliest AOS at 0818 UTC. Earliest AOS at 0818 UTC.
Now you can almost see Alex Van Hoven in the back row, right below the eye in Astrobotic. You can kind of see his head. Maybe he'll stand up for us at least one time. We'll see. He's very focused and busy. Today we have 3 of 6 flight directors on console for launch. Once we establish communications with Peregrine and the spacecraft officially begins its journey towards the moon, the flight directors will work in shifts so there is always one present in mission control. I would ask them to all give a wave, but they're definitely laser focused on their screens, checking up on the spacecraft. Now Alex, he's giving us those live updates, and he is also senior aerospace engineer, and he oversaw the development of Peregrine's in-flight procedures. He developed his flight expertise as part of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center.
Broadcast, Mission Control Flight Director announcement. I repeat, broadcast, Mission Control Flight Director announcement. At this time, Astrobotic has confirmed that we have established communications with Peregrine, and we are now receiving live telemetry. I repeat, we have just established communications with DSN and can confirm that we are receiving telemetry from the satellite.
Now, confirming, my goodness, we have received signal with the Peregrine spacecraft, and we are communicating it with it here on Earth. You just heard it from Alex. The team will begin sending commands to Peregrine to continue its journey to the lunar surface. What an incredible day. Now, thank you so much for continuing to tune in with us to watch this historic launch of Astrobotic's Peregrine lunar lander on its journey to the moon. I'm Olivia Chapla with Astrobotic, and it is such a happy day for Astrobotic. I'm kind of speechless. So back to Megan at the hostess. Thank you very much.
Hey, congratulations, Olivia. I know that must have been really nerve-wracking to see such a big moment and it being finally here. So congratulations to her and the rest of the team. And actually right now here with me, I have Andy Jones, and he is the Director of Landers and Spacecraft for Astrobotic. And Andy, I saw you were over off the camera, but I saw you go, yes, as soon as we confirmed acquisition of signal. So talk us through that. How are you feeling?
Relieved. More than anything else, relieved. I mean, getting communication is just so important to everything else we want to try and do. So now I can start enjoying the moment, enjoying the excitement of getting into space.
Yeah, at least you didn't have to wait long. You know, there was a window, right? We got it right at the beginning of the possible window.
So just a credit to all the great work the team has done to actually get it, to acquire it so fast.
Yeah.
It's just a brilliant set of machine, brilliant people working on it, so
yeah,
very proud.
Yeah, what would you say to the team? You know, again, I know that you guys have been working on this for years. What would you say to them as it culminates in this moment right now?
Get back to work. No.
Not even going to give them a break. Okay, we're hard-working folks at Astrobotic, guys.
No, extremely proud. The team should be extremely proud of themselves. It's been a fast road, a lot of setbacks, a lot of ups, lots of downs. The team took everything in their stride and, as you can see, achieved remarkable things. So proud of everybody, what they've done. Inspirational to everybody.
Yeah. And what's next for Astrobotic and NASA? You know, it seems like we're going back to the moon for a second time, huh?
It is. So once obviously successful completion of this mission, we have Griffin, which takes the Viper rover to the moon late 2024. Following that, we have as early as 2026, a tipping point where we do a demonstration of power transmission across the lunar surface. And also, Astrobotic is part of the national team led by Blue Origin to take humans back to the moon, and we're part of the cargo lander system for that.
So a lot of things to look forward to.
Lots to look forward to. Yeah.
And just one last question for you. I mean, just what do you think of this new initiative that NASA has to really bring in all of these small U.S. companies to hopefully help us all go back to the moon?
This initiative is incredibly important. It allowed a small company like Astrobotic to actually deliver a lander to the moon. We'd have never been able to achieve it without that. But the best thing is it's bringing a lot more creative minds, new thinking to the table, and that will help us accelerate the technologies needed to get us back to the moon and have a robust resource and presence on the moon. So the more, it's very important for us to be there, and it's just helping us get there much faster.
Andy, thank you so much, and congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
And that's going to do it for us here at Kennedy Space Center. Thank you for sharing in the excitement of NASA's first CLIPS launch. Now on its own, the Peregrine spacecraft will coast for an expected arrival at the moon on February 23rd. And coverage of that landing, one of the first U.S. landings on the moon in over 50 years, that will be broadcast on NASA TV and NASA Plus. For those of you watching on ULA platforms, the ULA version of the simulcast will continue in a few moments as they await another milestone in this inaugural Vulcan flight. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We leave you now with a final look at today's historic launch.
You're looking at a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon spacecraft that is in the final stages of preparation to launch the world's first all-private astronaut mission to the International Space Station in just over 3 hours from now. Today's launch marks the next step in the evolution of this human spaceflight story. This is the first of a number of private astronaut missions by Axiom Space to the International Space Station, and it represents the culmination of years of hard work between both government and private entities to open up the doors to low Earth orbit. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be tuning in from around the world. Welcome to the live broadcast of the launch of Axiom Mission 1, often called AX-1. My name is John Rackham, and I'm the Crew Systems Deputy Manager at Axiom Space, based out of Houston, Texas.
My name is Kate Tice. I'm the Quality Systems Engineering Manager here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Welcome. Together, we have quite a lot to share with you today about today's historic AX-1 mission. As John mentioned, this represents the first of its kind, as 4 Axiom astronauts will become the first all-private astronaut crew to the International Space Station. This is the first of 4 missions SpaceX will launch for Axiom Space. AX-1 also marks SpaceX's 6th human spaceflight mission overall and our 5th human spaceflight mission to the orbiting laboratory.
Wow. Yeah, today's mission is the culmination of years of efforts by teams at Axiom Space to expand the opportunities of private citizens around the world to partake in meaningful science, research, and STEAM-related activities in low Earth orbit. We believe that the commercial efforts in low Earth orbit should build on the foundation that NASA has laid, while expanding the volume and type of research and manufacturing capabilities for the benefit of all. Missions just like today's open the door for new countries around the world to pursue and participate in the benefits of human spaceflight. And for Axiom Space, each of our private astronaut missions are critical steps in the development of our Axiom Station, the world's first private space station, currently under construction.
Right now, Axiom astronauts Michael Lopez Alegria, Larry Connor, Eitan Stiba, and Mark Pathy are suiting up inside SpaceX's Falcon Support Building, or FSB, preparing to lift off from historic Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This crew will be spending 8 days living and working on board the space station before returning to Earth and splashing down in the Atlantic Ocean.
Right, and over the course of their 10-day journey, the AX-1 crew will conduct a wide range of experiments, including several that determine how people, just like you and I, respond to a microgravity environment. The data that they collect will be invaluable to furthering human exploration of space and hopefully inspire countless others to follow in their footsteps.
The crew flying on today's mission includes members representing Spain, Canada, Israel, and the United States. Each has a story all their own. Through this mission, 3 new names will be added to the list of astronauts who have flown to orbit.
Right, so let's take a look at our crew. The AX-1 mission is commanded by retired NASA astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria, a Spanish-American who was born in Madrid, Spain, and has also called Mission Viejo, California, as well as Boston, Massachusetts, home. Michael is a U.S. Navy captain and has flown 3 times aboard the Space Shuttle and once aboard Soyuz. He has conducted 10 spacewalks in his career, accumulating 67 hours and 40 minutes total in the vacuum of space, both of which are NASA records, and that's amazing. In 2021, he was inducted into the Astronaut Hall of Fame, and known by many as MLA or just LA. If you're a person who loves acronyms, here's a new one for you, as we will refer to Commander of this mission as MLA over the course of our webcast.
Yeah, super qualified for his role as commander. Also super qualified for his role, the pilot for AX-1 is Larry Connor from Dayton, Ohio. Larry is an entrepreneur, nonprofit activist investor. He has won aerobatic flying competitions and summited both Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Rainier. Through AX-1, he will become the first private pilot to reach the ISS. He will also become the first human to reach both the deepest ocean depths and enter the bounds of outer space within 1 year. Larry has been actively involved with the Mayo All right, so just some good notes there from our countdown team. As I was saying, Larry has been actively involved with the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic for many years, helping to understand the effects of aging. This mission will add a new dimension to several of these studies.
And serving as Mission Specialist 1, Eitan Stiba will become the 2nd Israeli ever to fly to space. In many ways, today's mission is a return to flight for the nation of Israel after the Columbia tragedy in 2003. Eitan served for more than 4 decades as a fighter pilot in the Israeli Air Force, where he received the Distinguished Aviator Medal, and today he is an impact investor and philanthropist. In collaboration with the Ramon Foundation, the Israel Space Agency, and the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, and the Ministry of Education, Stiba will fly to the ISS under the Rakia banner and the maxim, "There is no dream beyond reach." During his time on the ISS, Stiba will facilitate scientific experiments, educational outreach, and even artistic activities.
Mark Pathy is an entrepreneur, investor, and philanthropist, as well as mission specialist number 2 on this AX-1 mission. Pathy is currently the Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of Montreal-based Maverick, a privately owned investment and financing company he founded that focuses on innovation and social impact. As a strong believer in the importance of philanthropy, Pathy is a member of the boards and executive committees of the Montreal Children's Hospital Foundation, Dans LaRue, and the Pathy Family Foundation. Through the AX-1 mission, Pathy will become Canada's 2nd private astronaut and the 12th Canadian to go to space.
So, as the crew finishes suiting up inside the Falcon support building, we are moments away from seeing them walk out the same doors that the Inspiration 4 crew inaugurated on their mission. But before they do, it's worth noting that today's mission holds a lot of excitement for groups around the world. So first up, cheering on mission specialist Mark Pathy are the many doctors and family of the Montreal Children's Hospital.
And from Dayton, Ohio, the students of Dayton Early College Academy are following the journey of pilot Larry Connor.
I love seeing those kids get excited. And then all the way across the Atlantic from our partners in Madrid, Spain, teams at Motor and Sport Institute are gathering together to celebrate the launch of Commander MLA's 5th flight to space.
And continuing east, our good friends in Tel Aviv's Rakia Mission Control are actively engaged, monitoring the mission and cheering on Eitan Stiba.
Yeah, Kate, to me, this is what really sets this mission apart. This is what humanizes this mission, seeing everybody that this crew's got to interact with and everything this means to these people here on Earth. It really shows that, this is how the dots are connected between what's going on up there and what's going on down here.
Hearing about the kinds of research and outreach that each member has chosen to focus on was particularly interesting to me. They don't have a lot of time up there at all. So to focus on aspects like art really gives, on such a large scale, is really interesting.
Yeah. Well, as you can imagine, it's been a pretty busy morning already for the Axiom 1 crew. They had a wake-up call at about T-minus 8 hours and 40 minutes to launch, followed by their first medical checks of the day, and then a shared meal with their families. At around T-minus 4 hours and 21 minutes, crew was formally handed off to SpaceX at the shuttle landing facility parking lot.
At T-minus 3 hours and 50 minutes, the crew arrived at the suit-up room located in the Falcon support building, which is just basically right behind this camera view that you see there. Also around then, they had their pre-launch briefing, including weather information, launch details, and we gave them their tablets that they get to bring with them onto flight, which brings us to the current efforts. At T-minus 3 hours and 25 minutes, we will, the crew began suiting up, and once that process is complete, they will exit the Falcon support building and get into their Teslas. We will have 2 astronauts in each of the Teslas, led by a support vehicle. It's a short drive up to the launch pad, and once they arrive, the crew will ascend the fixed service structure that you see there in an elevator up to the 255-foot level. The crew will then take the stairs up the last 10 feet, where they will stop and make one final phone call before walking down the crew access arm to the White Room. The White Room is their last stop before climbing into the spacecraft, a process known as crew ingress. During ingress, the SpaceX team will run a series of checks to ensure the suits, seats, and vehicle interactions are all functioning properly.
Right, and after all the vehicle and crew checkouts are completed, the SpaceX closeout team will then close Dragon's side hatch and depart the pad. At about T-minus 40 minutes from launch, the crew access arm will then retract away, followed by the arming of the launch escape system. And once that arm is retracted and the escape system is armed, propellant loading on Falcon 9 will begin. At T-minus 5 minutes from launch, Dragon will be configured for what we call terminal count, and this is when Dragon's onboard computers take control of the spacecraft.
And finally, at T0, Dragon and Falcon 9 will lift off from pads 39A. Roughly 12 minutes after liftoff, Dragon will separate from Falcon 9's second stage and spend the next 24 hours making its way to the International Space Station.
Good morning. I'm John Isbrecher, Falcon 9 Principal Integration Engineer here at SpaceX. We're currently at T-minus 3 hours, 12 minutes, and everything looks good for an on-time launch later today. Now, as Kate mentioned, the crew received their weather briefing just after T-minus 4 hours. As you can see from the view here, blue skies around Kennedy Space Center, pad 39A. Probability of weather violations is down to just 10%. Mostly we're just looking at some wind. We've also checked the ascent corridor in case of a launch escape is needed by Dragon. The sea state conditions are acceptable there. And even in the emergency deorbit locations, everything is acceptable. So the weather's looking good. Now at pad 39A, the Falcon 9 is powered up. The engine checkouts were performed overnight, and pressurization of the gas storage tanks on the vehicle is completed about T-minus 6 hours. Now, T-minus 2 hours, Falcon will begin its final checks for launch, including a communication check with the crew, and propellant loading will begin at T-minus 35 minutes. Now, as with all of our launches to the International Space Station, we have an instantaneous launch window at 11:17 a.m. Eastern, or 15 hours, 17 minutes Universal Time. If for whatever reason we weren't able to launch today, our next opportunity will be just under 24 hours later on the 9th of April.
That puts us 15 minutes ahead of schedule.
Thanks, John. So we are just under 3 hours and almost 10 minutes before crew is expected until launch, and we're expecting the crew to walk out in just a few minutes from the Falcon Support Building. John, as we wait for that, let's talk about any new traditions or celebrations for Axiom leading up to launch.
Yeah, of course, Kate. So as you know, and as you can imagine, this has been a pretty big milestone that many at Axiom Space have been working towards for years. So we wanted to find a moment to highlight all that effort and mark a new phase of this journey that we're on together. So about 2 weeks ago, the Axiom family gathered together along with a crew and created a new tradition. And to mark the end of preparation of training phases and signify the first steps towards the operations phases, we held a first step to space ceremony at Axiom headquarters in Houston. Here's a quick highlight of that moment.
We're really excited to welcome you for the first ever crew send-off.
Are you all excited to be here? We really are excited. I am thrilled. Today is a moment of celebration.
You come work each day because you're doing something that makes a difference in the history of humanity. That's what you're all about. You're making a giant impact to human spaceflight.
This company is about to change the way the world thinks of human spaceflight. And you guys cannot imagine the impact that all of you are having really on history.
It's ultimately the people at the front lines who make the difference. Do not underestimate your impact or your value.
Thank you really for the warm welcome coming from the other side of the world. I think this is a positive vibe, and hopefully that everyone will enjoy this effort.
It was really amazing how everybody stepped up. It's really about changing the world and about making the world a better place.
It's the beginning. We're about to have our missions, we're going to have our space station, and this is the beginning. And if that doesn't give you a little bit of chills, then you're probably in the wrong job.
Go AX1! Yeah.
So around that same time, we scanned the bottom of the right shoe of each of the crew's flight suit and created what we're calling the Stepping to Space tradition. The crew will sign this finished plaque once they return from their mission. So you can see there, that's the plaque with their shoes imprinted, and it's been milled out. It's got the mission patch on it. Crew's going to sign that when they come back.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, so we're in Hawthorne, California, kind of close to Hollywood. Seeing that kind of reminds me of the area in front of the Chinese theater where movie stars get to put their handprints and footprints in. I like that one better.
Yeah.
That one's pretty cool.
It's
a
pretty cool.
space one.
It's a pretty unique space one. A little cleaner maybe too.
That's super cool. So we're hearing that we're just a couple minutes away from being able to see the crew for the first time today. They are currently suiting up inside the Falcon Support Building, or FSB. That's basically the hangar close by to the launch pad, and the team is in there with the closeout team. Zooming out the closeout team. The suit.
Countdown. We're at T-minus 3 hours 7 minutes. Crew suit donning is complete.
All right.
We are ahead of schedule.
Even better news. Ahead of schedule. Now you might hear check-ins with the team indicating what kind of margin that we have with our countdown, basically, and proceeding up to launch. We do build in margin so that if we are running a little bit behind or a little bit ahead, it's all good, basically.
Yeah, and a lot of those calls that you hear, those are clear steps in a procedure. As you can imagine, this day is very heavily synchronized. Everybody's got a job to do, and we follow procedures. So hearing those call-outs really means we're on the right track. People are paying attention to the right things, and we're on a good, successful path.
Yeah, ultimately, the countdown is the thing that aligns all the teams that are working together for liftoff. And there's folks that are in mission control, but then there's lots of people behind the scenes as well. And that countdown is what aligns everybody to the right step in the process. So yeah, we just heard there that the crew has completed the suit up process, and so we are hoping to get our first look at them today as they exit the Falcon Support Building.
All right.
And we're hearing that they are close to exiting the building.
Right.
Not quite there yet. For those of you that have joined us recently, we are awaiting the crew to exit the Falcon Support Building.
Right, and you can see there on either side of where crew's going to be walking out, the Axiom logo patch, or the mission patch rather. And when crew comes out, they'll be greeted by I think it's called the Advanced Team crew, or the Advanced Team, Kate, is that correct?
So the Advanced Team is the group of people that are actually already out at the pad inside the tower and the capsule, preparing those areas for the crew's arrival. That we are expecting to see the crew exit any moment. They will get into a couple of Teslas that will take them up to the pad. In addition to the crew, we will also have the flight surgeon and closeout leads riding along in the Teslas along with our astronauts.
And you mentioned, Kate, riding the Teslas to the launch pad. It's a bit of a decent walk, I think, if they had to walk to the pad. But
we're on countdown.
And there they are. We're getting our first look at the Axiom 1 crew as they exit the suit-up room. We can see there Michael Lopez Alegria, Larry Connor, Eitan Stiba, and Mark Pathy.
This is our first live look at the Axiom 1 crew suited up for their mission to the International Space Station.
You can see them there getting a few photos together. They look ready.
What do you think they're saying? 3, 2, 1.
That's perfect.
What?
I think they're saying, guys, we have worked so hard to get to this point, and let's go do this.
Yeah. That's great. So now they're going to hop into those Teslas. It's about a 2,000-foot drive, or walk if you wanted to. Yeah. But, we want to keep everybody cool and comfortable before hopping into their spaceship. So we're going to drive them up to the pad from Falcon Support Building.
And as you saw on your left side of the screen, Michael Lopez Alegria, the commander, and Larry Connor, the pilot, are riding in one Tesla together, and in the other is Eitan Stibba and Mark Pathy. So again, you can see there on the left side, from left to right, we have Larry Connor and MLA in one Tesla together, and on the right side of the screen, you can see Eitan Stibba and Mark Pathy. So they're getting buckled in, the doors came down and closed, and they are ready to get to the pad.
Right now, the team inside the Tesla is just doing final checks with the crew, make sure everybody is good to go, and depart for the tower.
And for their own comfort, Kate, you know, they have umbilicals in the Tesla that connect to them, so it keeps them cool and keeps powered on.
Yeah, we actually have vessels inside the Teslas themselves that pump out nitrox or nitrogen oxygen air. We know it's the same stuff that scuba divers use in their tanks when they're underwater. And that is pumped through the umbilical into the suits to help make sure that the crew members, like you said, remain cool and comfortable during their ride. It's the same thing. It's basically the same hookup that we plug them into whenever they're actually inside the capsule itself.
Right. Well, as the Axiom 1 crew ride out to their rocket, we thought it fitting to hear a few of those from across the Axiom family wishing them well.
Space exploration has always been about inspiring others, and this AX-1 mission is bringing about a new type of inspiration for the world.
Congratulations, guys. I'm very excited to work with you to complete your science experiments and your educational outreach when you get on board ISS. Godspeed, and go AX-1 crew.
We know you guys are prepared, and we'll be supporting you here from Mission Control in Houston.
Launch day is finally here. Your cargo is packed and ready, and we can't wait to see you on orbit. Go AX-1.
I just wanted to wish you all luck and reiterate how inspiring this mission is for me and many people here on Earth.
The prop team at Axiom Space would like to wish the AX-1 crew safe travels to and from the ISS. Fly safe, and we'll see you on orbit.
I just want to wish you guys a safe, smooth ride up there. And on behalf of the Axiom Operations leads, we're looking forward to supporting you guys when you get on board. Hope you have a good stay.
We are so excited about our first launch, and congratulations to the crew of AX-1 on making history.
Thanks for the payloads team. We're really proud of the science that you guys will be doing on this mission and look forward to hearing all about it once you get back here on Earth.
Thank you guys so much for letting us pioneer and improve upon the commercialization of space. We wish you the best of luck on your journey.
We are absolutely thrilled to have worked with you in building AX-1. We're so grateful that you are doing this first for us, and we cannot wait for you to come home safely.
We are so pleased to be involved with this historic moment that y'all are about to journey, and we are wishing you safe travels, infinity and beyond.
As you're taking the next step in the evolution of the space industry. So I want you guys to be proud of that, embrace it, and Godspeed.
The Wright brothers once said that the desire to fly has been handed down from our ancestors, looking up enviously at the birds soaring through space. And I just want to say it's now your time to be the envy of the birds as you soar higher and further than most of us could ever dare.
Good luck and Godspeed, AX-1.
So awesome to see well wishes from the Axiom teams.
Core on Countdown 1. We're at T-minus 2 hours, 59 minutes. Crew have arrived at the pad. We are ahead of schedule.
All right, that was a commentary from SpaceX Core or Crew Operations and Resources Engineer Arthur Berrialt, indicating that the crew has arrived, which, as you can see just there momentarily ago, exiting the Teslas. This is their first opportunity to get an up-close look at their ride to space today. It's worth noting that we did perform a dry dress rehearsal on Wednesday. Was that? Yeah, I guess Wednesday. And so we, just like we're doing today, we walked through all the steps. They've seen the rocket up close before, but not on launch day.
And not quite like this. I think it's a completely different feeling. When you're walking out of that FSB, for the first time on launch day, right? You do the rehearsal, but today is completely different, right? You can see them there enjoying it. They are ready to go. That looks like Eitan there giving a good dance.
I mean, you can just feel his excitement through the camera lens.
Exactly. Well, I think it really highlights the fact that this really is a return to flight for Israel, and the amount of work that each of these crew members have done to prepare for this mission has been outstanding. We mentioned earlier the training and choreography that leads up to a launch, and this crew has really gone above and beyond in their training to prep for this mission. 700 to 1,000 hours of training. They've really set that bar high for what this mission means to them and how they want to give back to the mission. And so I think it's more than fitting here to have a little bit of time to look back and enjoy it and say, we are ready. We are ready to get up there, and we are ready to go to the ISS, and we're ready to participate.
So with that view there, you can actually see the elevator doors that they're about to hop into. They'll get in those elevators, which I should note, we are launching from pad 39A. This is the pad that humanity went to the moon from. Apollo 11 launched from here, and the space shuttle then flew out of this pad after the Saturn V program ended. And we just saw MLA and Mark. That's great.
Yeah.
And so when SpaceX took over the lease for this launch pad in 2014, we did make some safety improvements and general refurbishments to the tower. So we did remove the rotating service structure, but what we see here, this is still the fixed service structure that existed in the shuttle program. So these elevators that this crew is getting into, MLA got in these elevators when he flew shuttle.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. Now they're going to take these elevators up to the 255-foot level. In the tower, we don't mark it by level numbers. There we can see that they have exited the elevator.
Right. We see Mark Pathy there. Walking up the rest of the service structure, well, it looked like MLA had taken a little bit of a glance out of the tower there, looking back down.
He's allowed.
He's allowed. He's got a bit of pedigree there, but just taking a look at where he's at, and here we're going to see Larry Connor and Eitan Stibba riding up in the other elevator.
Yeah, so they're going to go up to the 255-foot level, and then right there we can see them ascending the final 10 feet up to the 265-foot level via a staircase. Now here they have an opportunity to use the telephone that is placed there. Same deal as with previous spaceflight missions of history. You get one last chance to call anyone. It's been noted that obviously we're broadcasting this live. We're saying there's a telephone, but back in the old days, astronauts used to love to not tell people that they could get a phone call before they got into their launch vehicle.
And then we see Eitan and Larry emerging from the elevator and making their way over to the telephone as well. And Kate, I'm seeing that advanced team, following them around. Everybody's got numbers marked down. It looks like everybody here has a very specific role to play in the, the pad walk up and all the way through crew ingress, right?
For sure. Everyone is in bunny suits. We want to make sure that the spacecraft itself is a clean environment. We are launching from Florida. There's bugs. There's no way to avoid them, from an atmospheric standpoint. So we really want to make sure that we block off any opportunity for FOD, foreign object debris, which could be a bug, could be a hair, could be anything that's not meant to be in the vehicle. And so you can actually see it in the right-hand corner. There's a small window, a rectangle, and that's basically a protective flap that blocks the open environment air from the crew access arm and therefore into the white room and into the capsule. So really making sure that environment is clean. That's why these our closeout leads and our suit technicians are in those bunny suits that you see there with numbers on the back. It's hard to tell people apart, so you are assigned a number. So we try to do our best here to make sure that everything that we don't want to go into, ultimately to go up to the space station, it stays out.
Right. And again, that's just one small part of the controls that are in place to really make sure that, launch day is successful. And another part of that is understanding the role that everybody plays. It's all part of the training that leads to this moment. As I'm sitting there watching it as well, I'm noticing the arrows marked on the ground, representing emergency egress paths and things like that. So Saw a great moment there between Larry and Eitan. You can tell they're just excited about it.
Yeah, as you mentioned before, a lot of training has gone into what we're seeing today. That includes preparation for all scenarios. Those arrows on the floor basically indicate the quickest path to safety in the event that the teams need to exit the tower rapidly. So everything is, we try to think of everything, all scenarios.
Right.
Preparation is ultimately the key to success. So there you see a view of that 265-foot level connected by the crew access arm over to the capsule. Now, we do see folks milling about. One thing to note, we did have part of the SpaceX crew actually here at the pad prior to the arrival of the crew. They're called the advance team. That's a small group of people that are basically responsible for preparing the cabin prior to the crew's arrival. They show up, they open the side hatch, they make sure that the cabin lights are on, they make sure that the task lights above each seat are functional and working, making sure that the displays are configured for crew ingress, initial comm checks, and you mentioned before, we've practiced everything. Everything is it's a choreograph.
Yeah.
That advanced team, it's so well choreographed. That advanced team in their procedures even have written, make sure there's a Sharpie.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
we're going to see the crew have the opportunity to add their signature to the white room, and it's actually in our procedures. Make sure that there's a Sharpie for the crew to sign the wall.
I love that.
Looks like one of our crew members is making that call. We think it's hard to tell.
I saw earlier Eitan leaning over the balcony, I think just taking everything in.
What a beautiful day. Looks like that might be Larry Connor on the phone.
And we see Mark and MLA there as well, talking to their crew team or to their suit teams as well, and that advanced team that Kate was talking about. And
yeah, so you might notice the closeout lead there in the black bunny suit on the right-hand side has a tablet. That tablet is basically what we use to go by step those electronic procedures that we have written. And as you see people stop and pause, and you might see the crew members give a thumbs up, that's all part of the procedure.
right, and we get our first look here now as crew is walking towards the white room, getting ready for ingress into their Dragon capsule. We see MLA and Mark right there walking towards their capsule right now. They'll be ingressing first, and soon we should be able to get a good shot here as crew waits ingress.
As Mark and MLA make their way.
Countdown. We're at T-minus 2 hours, 50 minutes. Crew have arrived at the white room to prepare for ingress.
Now that MLA and Mark have arrived, as we just heard, down at the white room, we can see Larry and Eitan making their call, removing the gloves here to take that Sharpie and add their names.
Exactly.
So this is an opportunity for all astronauts that depart from Pad 39A on a Falcon 9 vehicle to add their signature to this room. You can see there on the left the NASA meatball with all of the NASA astronauts that have made this journey prior.
Yeah, and signing that wall is such a huge step, for any crew, I think, that gets to participate, but particularly, this is the first set of signatures of many for Axiom crew, and we're really looking forward to seeing a lot more signatures on that wall.
Now, after the signatures, the closeout leads there, the suit technicians, are basically, right now, we can see them doing a pre-ingress. You can see the next two are making their way down the crew access arm. Yeah, that closeout lead there is doing the pre-ingress checks, making sure that all the zippers are closed, making sure that the boot covers have been removed from their boots, removing the protective cap that's on top of the umbilical port. If it were raining, obviously it's a beautiful day in Florida.
Yeah.
And if it were raining, this would also be the opportunity that we would wipe the boots down
right.
Before anybody enters. They're also just reminding the crew to be extremely careful when ingressing. There is, we want to make sure that, there's no contact between the side of the vehicle and their helmet, for example.
Right.
So just making sure that everyone, and again, we've practiced this many times, as you've mentioned. The crew has logged 700 to 1,000 hours. That involves practicing getting in and out of the capsule.
Yeah, but like you said, this is a really controlled environment, right? This is really, when you button that hatch up, that is ready to go to ISS. And that controlled environment you got to take care of and make sure that you're, it's a crowded room in there, as we can see right behind Larry and Aton as they're awaiting their ingress trans as well. But it's busy in there, and we got to make sure that you're watching out for things like hatch seals and making sure that all of their flight suits are well taken care of and well maintained as they get into the vehicle. But like you said, Kate, it's a well rehearsed, well choreographed situation.
So it looks like the closeout leads are performing that pre-ingress check. Now there's already a closeout lead or a suit technician inside the capsule. They're ready to support the crew members as they make their way into their chairs.
And first up for ingress will be Commander MLA, or Michael Lopez Alegria. You see Mark there getting a pat on the back as well, saying, hey, man, congratulations, let's make this happen.
So basically, they get in their seats. Obviously, got to buckle up. Looks like Mark Pathy is now in his seat. So that suit technician will help them. It's more than just a seatbelt like you and I are accustomed to in a car. It's actually a 5-point safety harness. So they'll do an initial buckling in. They don't tighten it completely. They want people to still be comfortable.
Right.
They're going to be sitting in the capsule for a little while.
Yeah.
We're just under 3 hours until liftoff. So they're going to get in, tighten that safety harness, make sure that the footrest and everything is comfortable for the crew.
Right. Well, and one thing we didn't get to see earlier with the flight suit-up room, but they, as they're sitting in and getting suited up,
they are allowed to kind of sit back in some chairs to kind of see how do these chairs feel. And I think you told me something interesting about the seats on these Dragon spacecraft, right? They're kind of
they're
customized a little bit for
absolutely. So while they're not custom molded, they are custom sized. So you can think of it as like small, medium, and large in terms of the size of the bucket that they sit in. So essentially the length of the seat from spine to head. Everybody's different. We want to make sure that, during dynamic operations, such as liftoff and re-entry, that the body is ergonomically supported. And so things like